ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਸੀਜੇ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਸ਼ੋ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਐਵਰੀ ਥਰਸਡੇ 7 to 8 o'clock ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਕਰਾਈਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਨਾਲ, ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਐਕਟਿਵਿਸਟ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਆ, ਉਸ 'ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਆਈਦਾ ਅਤੇ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੇ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਕਰਾਈਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਐਜ਼ ਏ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਲ ਸਕੇ। ਅੱਜ very special event. Leader of opposition, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, is coming to address the Punjabi Press Club. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਆਫ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ, ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਤਾਜ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਇੱਥੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਐਂਡ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੈ ਐਂਡ ਲੀਡਰ ਆਫ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛਣਗੇ। ਵੈਲਕਮ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੈਂ comment ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਕਰਾਵਾਂਗੇ। CJ Sidhu reporting from Grand Taj Surrey, BC.
Okay, good morning everybody. Once again, as I asked earlier, make sure your phones are off and nobody's moving around. Okay. What it is, I'll introduce Brad West. Yep. And he will be conducting the press conference today, and then there will be question period. We have received the names of people who want to ask questions, and they will be announced in that order as we received them. And if there's time left, we will take questions from the floor. Once that is after the question period, there will be a photograph session, one group picture where the ladies sit and the invited guests and everybody else stand behind it, so there is no time wasted. After that, if there is time left, we will have one-on-one with the cameras, which is also decided, and it starts with the Sanjha TV, Prime Asia, Omni, Channel Punjabi, and Connect FM so far, and Red FM. That's okay, so that's the sequence, so that all the cameras are not rushing together. With that, on behalf of the Punjabi Press Club and all the colleagues and the administration and the executive, we welcome you to your first press conference with the Punjabi Press Club, and we look forward to having many more of these as we go along with your journey into politics and over the coming few years. So with that, not taking your time, I would like to introduce Brad West, the Member of Parliament for Mission, Matsqui, and help me there.
Fraser Canyon.
Fraser Canyon.
Perfect.
Okay, Brad, it's yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gill, and it's really nice to see you again. I feel like we see each other at least once a month these days because our leader, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, is in Surrey on such a regular basis. And why is he in Surrey so much? It's because he's seeking to earn the trust of all Canadians. It goes without saying that people move to Surrey because they want to do something big with their life. They want to build a dream that they couldn't do in their home country. Surrey, in the eyes of the Conservative Party, embodies the Canadian entrepreneurial spirit. People come to Surrey, they put their two hands up and they said, I'm ready to work and build a beautiful life. In recent years, that's been challenged a bit, and that's why our leader is emphasizing meeting with you today and coming to Surrey on such a regular basis because he wants to share his vision for Canada, a message of hope and a message of hard work that will restore and maintain the Canadian dream for all new immigrants and all Canadians alike. And with that, I will turn it over to the Honourable Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you very much. Wahi Guru Ji Ka Khalsa, Wahi Guru Ji Ki Fateh. An honor to be here with Frank Caputo, our Associate Shadow Minister of Justice, and one of our top crime fighters. Also our whip, Carrie Lynn Finley, a former lawyer and minister who is a powerhouse right across British Columbia and Surrey in particular. And of course, Mr. Viss, from whom you just heard, who is a great ally of the Punjabi community and he even speaks a little bit of Punjabi. So
From time to time.
From time to time. But it is an honor to be back with all of you here today to talk about the Canadian promise. The Canadian promise that the country kept for me. I'm the adopted son of school teachers, born to a 16-year-old mother who couldn't raise me. Teachers adopt me, but they taught me that in Canada it didn't matter where you came from. It mattered where you were going. It didn't matter who you knew. It mattered what you could do. That's the country my wife came to as a refugee from Venezuela. She started here in a tiny little apartment with her and 5 other family members, and her father got on the back of a pickup truck every morning and went out to a farm field to pick fruit. Now he co-owns a business. Her brother is now a soldier, her other brother a carpenter, her sister a nurse, and of course she is standing with me on the stage of the biggest and oldest political party in Canada, which proves you can come from anywhere and get anywhere in Canada. That was the Canadian promise, and it's also the most important promise that Justin Trudeau broke. Unlike all the other promises he's broken, this promise was not his to break. It belonged to all of us. But we look around us today and we see it broken everywhere. Everything costs more. Work doesn't pay. Housing costs have doubled. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are now common in our streets. He's made these problems worse with inflationary spending, printing $600 billion to fund his deficits that gave us the worst inflation in a generation, and now the fastest rising interest rates in monetary history in Canada. The Canadian households are now the most indebted by far in the G7. And that debt is colliding with higher rates as people renew their mortgages at oftentimes 2 and 3 times the cost. Families are watching their monthly payments go up $2,000 and $3,000 a year. Some are losing their homes. Others, like one family I met here, have lost the father to suicide because he realized that his debts were so unpayable that he could not possibly face his friends and neighbors and tell them that he didn't repay. So he paid for it all with his life. People are living in tents. International students are being sold into human trafficking. They're living under bridges and on street corners. We have homelessness raging out of control. One lawyer in BC said that her clients are asking for her to keep them in jail. Call the authorities and say, don't let me out of because I don't know how I'll pay the rent. So that people now would rather be in prison than live in Justin Trudeau's housing market. That is how bad it has gotten after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. You know, it's now 50% cheaper to buy a house in the U.S. than it is in Canada, even though they have 8 times the people to house on a smaller landmass. Vancouver's the 3rd most unaffordable housing market in the world, according to Demographia, and Toronto is rated by UBS, the international bank, as the worst housing bubble on planet Earth. You can buy a castle in Sweden for the price of a 2-bedroom in Kitchener, just to show how crazy our prices have gotten out of range with every other country on Earth. This is 8 years after Trudeau promised to make housing more affordable. Furthermore, crime is up, violent crime up 40%, shootings up 100%, gang killings up 110%. This is the result of the catch and release policies of Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh. And now they're decriminalizing crack, heroin, cocaine, and other hard drugs. No wonder we have total chaos in our streets. Tent cities where drug addicts are seen face down on the pavement. Scenes that we never thought we would have in Canada. But this is the hell that Trudeau and Singh have unleashed in our country. But the good news is, Canada was not like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. We're going to turn the hurt that he's caused into the hope Canadians need by getting back to common sense. Common sense means bringing lower prices by axing the carbon tax to bring down gas, heat, and groceries, and capping spending and cutting waste to balance the budget to bring down inflation and interest rates. We'll make work pay again by lowering income taxes, so you bring home more of each dollar you earn. Well, speaking of work, We'll allow our brilliant immigrants to work in their professions by bringing in a national Blue Seal testing standard for all the regulated professions so that an immigrant doctor or nurse can take an exam, prove they're qualified, and get to work within 60 days of applying rather than being stuck in a low-wage job. We'll also allow our workers to have more jobs in forestry, tidal power, LNG, oil and gas, mining, by speeding up the approval and permitting for mining and resource projects so that you can get a permit within 18 months, not 18 years. That's how we will bring home these resource jobs to our country. And we'll fight for an end to the softwood lumber dispute, which is hurting Sikh forestry workers. The Sikhs have a century-long history of working in forestry in British Columbia, and many of them are suffering now because of the unfair duties the Americans apply. When we were in office as Conservatives, we got a deal on softwood lumber in 100 days. Trudeau's had 8 years, still no deal. Yep. And we saw Trudeau getting the President of the United States disrespecting Justin Trudeau with his finger right in his face, treating him like a little boy. We don't need a Prime Minister who is treated like a little boy around the world. We need someone who can stand up and defend our workers. And we need to build homes again. We have the fewest homes per capita in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. Why? Because we are the second slowest place to get a building permit on planet Earth. Development charges, delays, uncertainty, permitting, zoning, lawyers, consultants, all add $1.3 million to the cost of each newly built home in Vancouver. In Toronto, it's $350,000. Montreal blocked 24,000 new homes because of not in my backyard or NIMBYism. We can't allow local bureaucracies to block affordable homes. My common sense plan will require local governments speed up and lower the cost of building permits, or they'll lose federal grants. I'll require all big major cities permit 15% more home building per year or lose money from the federal government. Those that beat the 15% target will get a building bonus. And we'll require every federally funded transit station be permitted for high skyrise apartments so our seniors and students can live right next to the bus or train. We'll sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build homes you can support. We'll put more of our training dollars into the trades, not just into the professions and the universities, so that we have the builders we need to get the houses up and running. We're also going to bring home safety to our country, and that means ending Trudeau and Singh's catch and release system. They allow the same violent offenders to be released within hours of being arrested. The Vancouver police had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times. 40 offenders, 6,000 arrests in 1 year. That's 150 arrests per offender per year. Why do they keep getting out? That's 6,000 people hit over the head with a baseball bat or stabbed or robbed because the same thugs keep getting released onto our streets. This is the result of Bill C-75, the catch and release law supported by Trudeau and Singh. My common sense plan, jail, not bail. Jail, not bail for repeat violent offenders. Those repeat criminals who are newly arrested on an offense related to violence will be ineligible for bail or parole until their sentence is done. And you know, the good news is we don't have a lot of criminals. The bad news is they're very productive. Now, if you take those 40 people off the streets of Vancouver, you have 6,000 less crimes. And instead of giving out more decriminalized drugs, we're going to give out treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. Finally, we're going to restore order to the international student program. This is insane what is going on. We're losing young people who come here, often from Punjab, with a promise that they can get trained and can start a new life. They arrive, they have nowhere to live. They're living under bridges. They're getting sold into human trafficking. Their colleges are often a fraud. The letters of admission are fake. And as a result, they're subject to enormous abuses. And they're losing their lives. Tragic stories of families in Punjab learning that their son came here and instead of learning, he lost his life. We need to bring back order. We need to ensure that every student has a home, and if they need income, a job, and a place in a real college before they come here, so that they can succeed when they arrive. And we know that international students are extremely valuable to Canada because demographically, they're very young. And by graduating from a school in Canada, they'll be very well educated. They'll have the ability to contribute from age 22 until at least age 65. That's 40 years of productive contribution to the Canadian economy. So the program and the principle is right. But we have to protect the people against the abuses that have become so common in the last several years, and we will do that. That is our common sense approach to restore the promise that Canada makes to every single person. The common sense of the common people, united for a common home. Your home, my home. Our home, let's bring it home. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
CJ Sidhu.
Thank you. Ms. Poilievre, welcome to Sri. And my question is very simple. Since when Trump came in power, a lot of racism happened in Canada as well, including what happened in Ottawa. So the far right-wing policies, and that's the Canadians are most concerned about. What is your take on that?
I'm very concerned about the extremism and racism we've seen under Justin Trudeau. Of course, Mr. Trudeau has a long history of racism himself. He dressed up in racist costumes so many times that he can't even remember them all. He fired an Indigenous justice minister because he refused to break the law. He tried to help SNC-Lavalin get out of prosecution after it stole $160 million from the Libyan people, some of the poorest people in Africa. We've seen violent hate crimes rise under Justin Trudeau, large increases in hate crimes under his catch and release policies because violent racist criminals are able to get out of prison. So I am increasingly worried about the racism that both Justin Trudeau has in his past and that he is allowed to grow and expand in his 8 years in power. Conservatives have zero tolerance for racism. We're going to crack down on hate crimes, but we're going to protect places of worship from acts of vandalism, terrorism, and violence. And we're going to restore the Canada where it doesn't matter your color of skin, your religion, whether your name is Smith or Singh, Chang or Charles, Martin or Mohammed, Poilievre or Patel. As long as you're prepared to work hard and follow the law in this country of ours, you should have the opportunity to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre.
Yes.
My question is regarding foreign interference. You guys are very vocal when the foreign interference comes to Russia and China, and the buck stops when foreign interference of India comes. Even National Security Advisor Judy Thomas said India is a big actor in foreign interference. And the community here thinks Pradeep Singh Nijjar's murder is somehow related to foreign interference of India. Your party, you don't speak of it.
We're against all foreign interference from any government, from any country in the world, friend or foe. No country should ever be allowed to interfere in our politics. And that would include Beijing, it includes Russia, it includes India, it includes America, it includes any other country in the world. None of them have any business interfering in our politics. And in fact, our party has been pushing for a foreign influence registry so that if anyone is paid by a foreign government to influence our politics, they would have to register and be publicly exposed.
Mr. Poilievre, as you just mentioned about the international students,
Yes.
how they are contributing and how much they have contributed in the past. We are
Yes.
almost everyone aware
like their contribution to the Canadian economy. The current federal government, they're planning, or they proposed maybe they're going to be put freeze on new international students coming to Canada. So if you come into power, will you stop international students, or will you slow down the pace, or will you continue, or will you try to find new policies so that they can indulge into the system?
So we won't stop at the international student program. It's a very good program, and when it's well run. What we will do is, with all of our immigration and visitor policies, all of them are going to be based on a bottom-up approach, not a top-down approach. What does that mean? We need to bring in the number of international students for which there are real seats at real educational institutions, for which there are jobs to provide incomes to those who cannot otherwise pay, and for which there is enough health care. So what I will do when I'm Prime Minister is I'll reform the system so that an international student applicant will have to show they have a real admission letter from a real educational institution, that they have a place to live, and that if they don't have enough money in their bank account to pay their way, they have a job locked up so that when they get here they have income to pay. And as long as they meet those requirements, then that's not a problem. But we need to ensure that right now we have chaos because young people are arriving often without a real seat at a real educational institution. They don't have a home to welcome them, and they don't have a job to pay their bills. So now we're seeing them lining up at job fairs, huge lines. In Ontario, I don't know if it's as bad here, maybe you can tell me, but they have job fairs in Ontario where international students are lining up because they have no way of feeding themselves if they don't get the job. So what I want to do is make sure people who don't have resources to pay their education and stay, prove that they have a job before arriving so that they can pay their way and be healthy, happy, and successful in Canada.
Next, we have Sarbaraj Singh Callan.
Yeah.
Mr. Poilievre, my question is also on foreign interference. In the month of June, there was a tragic killing in the place of worship in Surrey. Sikh activist Bhai Finisher was gunned down in the place of worship. So some community members raised concern about the Conservative Party relatively remained silent on this issue. So can you please clarify your party's position on this, and particularly on this incident, and specifically what actions and policies you prepare if you come in power to stop political interference in Canada and to promote sovereignty in Canadian affairs?
So we weren't silent. We did speak out against the killing, and we condemned it. And we said that whoever was involved, whoever did the killing and whoever is involved in it should be prosecuted. So that's what we support. So far, the Trudeau government has done nothing, zero. What have they done? Have they found out who did it? Do they have any evidence? What have they done? Why has this been allowed to happen under Justin Trudeau's watch? He is the Prime Minister. So what has he done about it? If you have evidence of foreign interference, then we need to give it to the authorities and have it investigated. But so far, if you have the evidence, the Prime Minister has done absolutely nothing to stop it, other than more symbolism and drama. We don't need drama.
Kuldeep Singh.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question about health care. 2 decades or 3 decades before, that was one of the best medical systems here. In these days, it's very hard to treat yourself. A lot of people are leaving the country due to the health system. As per average Canadian, 100,000 people, around 112 family doctors are required. In British Columbia, especially in the city of Surrey, which is a growing city all over the country, they have only 59 family doctors. There's no family doctor. There's no treatment in the emergency. What is the magic you are going to do to fix this problem? As doctor or a health specialist is coming from India or abroad, any other country, they're driving taxis. Engineer is coming, he's working on the 7-Eleven. scientists coming, he's working on the gas stations. If somebody is already coming on LMIA and he's coming on the basis of doctor, but he's not being provided the service of doctor. If your government is coming, what you are going to do, what kind of magic you are going to do to improve this health system, which is screwed up very badly?
Well, I agree with you. It is totally screwed up. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, our healthcare system is worse than ever before, and wait times have doubled. After 8 years of Trudeau, 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses are banned from working in our hospitals. And what has he done about it? Nothing. Zero, zip, zilch. My common sense plan is to do in the professions what we've already done in the trades. So in 1952, the federal government brought the provinces together and created the Red Seal. So if you are a mechanic, an electrician, a pipe fitter, you can take an exam, prove you're qualified, and work anywhere in Canada in those trades with a Red Seal stamp. We don't have anything like that for the professions. So you come to Canada as a Filipino nurse, you wait 7 years trying to prove that you're qualified. You come here as a doctor, you wind your way through a very complicated bureaucracy. Most of them just say, I can't do this, I don't have 20 hours a week to go through the steps, so I'll drive a taxi and just give up on being a doctor. I met a doctor the other day in Ottawa who came here from India, and he actually commutes to Dubai and practices medicine there, but they won't let him practice medicine here. So he actually flies, he spends 10 days away from his family in Canada, and he goes to Dubai and does surgeries, then comes back, and in Ottawa he has to work as a technician at an eye care center. So here's my common sense plan. A blue seal exam for every regulated profession. And that way, just like the Red Seal for the trades, a person could take the exam, prove they are qualified, get the blue seal stamp, and then work anywhere in Canada. I'll also back up 30,000 small study loans for immigrant doctors and nurses and other professionals that need to take time off work in order to train up to the Canadian standard. You have some money in your pocket. In Alberta, they did this, and the repayment rate on these loans was 97%. And then the money from one immigrant professional is paid back and lent out to another person. And then it's paid back and lent out to another person. The same loan recycles over and over again. And then the incomes of the immigrant go up 500% as they go from being a taxi driver to a doctor. They pay more taxes. Finally, I'm going to make it possible for future immigrants to work on getting their credentials before they even arrive in Canada, so that they get here and they have a license, get to work immediately. These are common sense plans to bring powerful paychecks to our immigrant professionals and more doctors and nurses to Canadians.
Amarpal Singh.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for raising all the questions and awareness among Canadians. Yeah, I have a similar question, and just want to add up, like how to balance the human rights and business, right? And how you balance, and the next question is related, how you balance the import and export. Is the import and export is a big difference, right? And Canadian manufacturing industry is not very strong, and we are dependent on the other countries, and they are investing in other countries for the development. I don't know why they do it. And instead of promoting their own industry in Canada, and we can't balance it for the human rights. We have to ignore it, the human rights violation in other countries. Why not we encourage our own industry, and we are not dependent on the other countries. What we saw in the COVID, we are dependent on other countries.
Yes.
And they raised the, from $1,800 container is $2,600 price, and we like suffer of inflation because of that.
Yes.
And still suffering.
We need to bring home production to Canada to be less reliant on the rest of the world. The problem is right now we have one of the most unproductive economies in the OECD. Productivity is measured by the GDP per hour worked, and our productivity is lower because our workers get less investment. So in the States, the average company invests $30,000 in tools and technology for every worker they have, 30,000. In Canada, it's 15,000. So our workers get less tools and technology to produce goods and services. And that's why we're less productive. To compensate for that, we're buying more from the rest of the world, bringing it into this country. The only way to bring home that production is to reform our taxes and remove red tape so that our businesses can invest more here at home and we can produce more of our own goods on our soil. We have no excuse for how unproductive we are. We have more resources per capita than any country on earth. We live right next to the biggest economy the world has ever seen. We have 4 coasts, the 3rd biggest supply of oil, the 5th biggest supply of natural gas, the 6th biggest supply of lithium for electric car batteries, among the most timber and lumber of any country in the history of the world. We have the 5th biggest supply of farmland per capita. We have everything we need right here, but we have government taxes and red tape that prevent us from producing on our soil, and that's why we're so reliant. My common sense plan is to cut taxes and remove red tape so that we can encourage and reward businesses to bring home production to our country so that our people get the benefits and our nation is self-sufficient.
Chola Saab.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
My question is, what do you think about Minister's statement blaming housing issue on international students? Do you believe putting cap on international students is the solution? Or are there any factors to affect?
Well, who runs the international student system? It's the Trudeau government. They run it. So the incompetence is incredible. They lost track of 1 million people. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
They actually lost track. They underestimated our population by 1 million people. How do you lose 1 million people? I mean, I've lost my keys. I've lost my wallet. I've never lost 1 million people. But this guy was that. You know who it was? It was Sean Fraser. He was the immigration minister. And what was his punishment for losing 1 million people? He's now the housing minister. This is the guy that's going to fix the housing crisis. Unbelievable. No, there's total incompetence. We need international students. But let's set up the system so that we know they have a home, a job, and health care if needed before they arrive. That's how we get back to the common sense system that always worked and made our international student system the most envied in the world. And that's what I will bring home.
Yeah. Parmeet, camera.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Pierre. So my question is regarding the G20 summit, which happened recently in India, and our Prime Minister made an appearance in that. So although there has been lack of bilateral meeting between 2 Prime Ministers, and there hasn't been any effective trade happening between both countries. Now, I know there are human rights issues, but the business is also important to the country. What would you, according to you, what would be shortcomings and how it could be improved? Because now it has been second time, it's been 8 years, and that relationship has not been cemented.
We need competent international relations. Canada, look, we need to sell our products into India and the rest of Asia. We have uranium. We have the biggest supply of uranium in the world, which can power nuclear plants to shut down coal fire and reduce climate change. We have natural gas, which can do the same thing. We grow lentils, and obviously lentils are a big part of the protein diet in Asia, and particularly the Indian subcontinent. We produce, we have the biggest potash production in the world. We can supply Asia in general, and India in particular, with these products, while benefiting from India's brilliant engineers, IT, and other products. But we don't have a professional relationship, and we're paying the price for it. We need a competent leader who can, yes, stand up for human rights. Of course we can stand up for human rights. At the same time as exporting our products and bringing home powerful paychecks to our people. That will be my goal when I'm Prime Minister.
Ravinder,
Yes, that's me. I go with Ravi as well. So my question for you is regarding international students.
Yes.
We all appreciate that they will do a huge contribution
Yes.
academically and economically as well.
Yes.
However, at the same time, kids who were born here and they're going to college and university, and as a parent, I'm concerned as well when they come to us and have a discussion about they're worried about their job placement. So what's your thought on that?
Look, I think that is why we need what I call a bottom-up rather than a top-down approach. So right now we have a top-down, Ottawa-driven policy of setting extremely high targets for international student numbers, and then saying, figure it out. And then the schools, the housing market, the provincial government that delivers social services are left trying to figure out how to house people, food banks are left to figure out how to feed people. I would do it the other way around. I would say the numbers of international students should be based on the number that can show they have an admission to a real educational institution, not a fraud one. The number that have jobs prior to getting here, and the number that are housed before they arrive. And that way, the availability of housing, educational seats, and jobs will determine the number of international students who come, not the other way around. In other words, we start from the bottom, housing market, job market, seats at educational institutions, and then we determine, the numbers are determined that way. That's how I would do it. And that's how we did it before Trudeau, and it was very successful. I never had, up until this recent nightmare that Trudeau has caused, I never had any complaints about this program. In fact, I was the employment minister up until 2015. It wasn't, no one ever complained about it because it was just driven by common sense, and that's what we have to restore. Thank you.
Debbie from
Yeah.
Connect FM.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Poilievre. So my question is regarding the voting on this policy that prohibits people under 18 years of age for this life-altering surgical interventions. And do you think this policy is becoming a law?
Do you think this policy...
Do you see this policy as becoming a law?
Right now, I'm taking some time to study that policy to come to the right solution. We have to question the jurisdiction, which level of government is responsible for it. But I will, once I've had a chance to carefully study the policy that was passed by the Conservative Convention, I will be making my position clear. Thank you.
Thank you all very much today. We've run out of time, but we do have time for a group picture. So if you want to be part of that, we're going to do that probably here where it's all set up.
ਅੱਜ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਤਾਜ ਸਰੀ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੀਡਰ ਆਫ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਆਏ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਨਾਲ ਮੀਟ ਐਂਡ ਗ੍ਰੀਟ ਐਂਡ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਪੇਚੀਦਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਗਏ। ਮੇਰਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਟਰੰਪ ਸਟਾਈਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਰਾਈਟ ਵਿੰਗ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਆ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਅਸਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਊਗਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ I born with a 16-year-old mother and my wife is of a person of color, so ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਇਹ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਹੈ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਲਈ ਕੋਈ ਥਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਆਏ ਜੈਨੋਸਾਈਡ 1984 ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ। ਉਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਕਮੈਂਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਆਏ। ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਆਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸਿੰਗ ਹੋਵੇ, ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਕਾਲਜ ਹੋਣ, ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਨ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਫ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸਿਸ ਹੋਣ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਟਰਗਲ ਨਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਵੀ ਹੋਵੇ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਫੋਰਨ ਇੰਟਰਫੇਰੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਆਇਆ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਦੇਰ ਇਜ਼ ਨੋ ਸਪੇਸ ਇਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਫॉर ਫੋਰਨ ਇੰਟਰਫੀਅਰੈਂਸ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਵੈਟਿੰਗ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਕਾਫੀ ਪੇਚੀਦਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਸੀਗੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੜੀ ਕਾਮਲੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਂਡਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬੜੇ ਸੋਹਣੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੱਤੇ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖ ਹੀ ਲਏ। CJ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਰਿਪੋਰਟਿੰਗ ਫਰੋਮ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਤਾਜ, ਸਰੀ, ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ।